Mr. Speaker, thank you for that, and I wish to take this opportunity to wish the First Minister well in his new post. I hope he and the Deputy First Minister will be able to inject a genuine sense of purpose into the deliberations of the Executive, which are currently lacking. I put on record, Mr. Speaker, the fact that on not a single occasion since devolution returned here last year have the leaders of the parties that comprise the Executive met to discuss the way forward. This, I believe, is one of the reasons why the First Minister's term of office has started in an atmosphere of crisis. Colleagues beside us here told us that they had last year got it right, that issues had been resolved at St Andrews to ensure that no more threats to devolution would be there, to ensure that stability was guaranteed, Mr. Speaker. That claim rings hollow today as we meet here at the beginning of yet another round of talks involving both governments. What is abundantly clear, Mr. Speaker, is that things aren't resolved, and we are in fact embarking on a St Andrews Mark II. The truth is, Mr. Speaker, that the problems we face do not lie in London and do not lie in Dublin. The problems, the unresolved problems, lie here, Mr. Speaker, in this chamber. This is where they should be resolved by all the parties here. That's why we're here. Once again, there has been no effort to bring the parties together to discuss these outstanding issues. What is clear is that the behaviour of Sinn Féin over the last week will convince many that this Assembly is not yet ready to shoulder further responsibility, especially on such sensitive issues as policing and justice. When it is clear that we are unable to deal effectively with day-to-day problems, what reason is there to believe that adding more into the mix will produce better results? Sinn Féin could simply not resist, Mr. Speaker, the temptation to indulge in yet more brinkmanship to advance their narrow and outdated agenda. Like others, I had the privilege of addressing our potential US investors last month, Mr. Speaker, and along with other ministers encouraged them to believe that our problems of political instability were behind us. Yet within a few weeks, we make fools of ourselves across the world. I think real damage has been done to the credibility of this institution, both at home and abroad, and Sinn Féin is to blame for this. With families out there, Mr. Speaker, reeling from increasing food costs, rising mortgages, increased energy and fuel bills, instead of expecting to receive help from this place, they see a wrangle over an Irish Language Act and other issues. People must be asking, what on earth are we playing at? Mr. Speaker, the process being embarked upon in London tomorrow may well end with the devolution of policing and justice. Maybe not now, maybe next year, maybe later. And there will be an Irish Language Act, although not the one that Sinn Féin wants for this place. The Act could apply to those areas for which London has responsibility and not this House. Remember, the St Andrews Agreement referred specifically to an Irish Language Act. So therefore there is nothing to prevent the powers that are reserved to London being used to actually do this, including the powers relating to broadcasting and other matters. The Republican movement are beating the door down in London to get that, and they're not being turned away. So I would suggest that that is something we need to watch. May not apply in here, but it could apply out there to matters that are not devolved. This, of course, will be sweetened, perhaps, Mr. Speaker, with some economic bribe, perhaps the use of bases, which I would support, and perhaps another statement from the late Mr. P. O'Neill, who we thought had gone away. But perhaps he will be resuscitated yet once more to give some confidence, allegedly, to what might be emerging. But I say again, Mr. Speaker, the problems are in here. The problems are not in London. The problems are not in Dublin. and running in and out there again when we thought we'd passed all of that is not the way forward. The way forward is to deal with the problems here. That's what we're here for, that's what we're paid for, and that's what we should be doing.